there was an article that came out, and I don't remember which magazine it was, but it was on DJ Soto and VR Church, and this is while I was still in Colorado Springs. And the staff and I, at the church I was working at then at the time, we were talking about how dumb the idea of virtual reality church is. Was not about it whatsoever. And I was probably one of the loudest voices in the room. I was like, so again, pre-COVID, right? Yeah. So I was like, VR church is the dumbest thing I ever heard of before. And I was against even digital ministry at the time. I was like
even Zoom, side all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep, totally against. Okay. I was like, that can never be a true expression of the church. That was like February 2020. Okay. A month later, how things change quickly and rapidly, because I'm now sitting in the seat as that young adult pastor, having to figure out how do I keep my young adults in community when they're stuck at home. So I'm quickly creating a YouTube channel. We're launching a podcast, all that kind of stuff, doing Zoom meetups, everything in order to stay in community with my young adults there. So all of a sudden I was like, dude, digital totally has a place. The church has a place, and digital has a place in the church.
Yeah, we all did.
100%. But I was still meh on VR. So you fast forward about a year, so we're now in 2021, and our senior pastor came to me and our next gen director and said, hey, we want to try this idea of virtual reality church. Ultimately, the idea was our next gen director knows the gaming background. He's got all that. If we get Stuart in there and we're able to get at least a small group going out of it, we would consider it a win. So I'm bringing in the small group DNA. He's bringing in the gaming experience and all that. And that's how we launched. March 28th was our soft launch of 2021 with an official launch for Easter Sunday. And we haven't really looked back since. And at that time, I moved into the digital pastor seat. So now it made sense, VR, digital. And then less than a year later, I sat there and went to my senior leadership as we were talking about VR. And I said, look, you guys, if somebody's in a crisis moment in Lake Geneva, all they have to do is drive down the street, and we sit on a beautiful corner between two highways. You just have to drive down the street and they can see a physical building and say, hey, maybe, just maybe, in the middle of my crisis, those guys have an answer for me that I can go talk to. But we were doing ministry in VR where we were showing up once on a Sunday morning, doing our service, and then we were gone the rest of the week. And so I presented the idea of like, we need to be more of a presence, and we need to be a church in VR that we can basically replicate what does it look like to be a church on the street corner in virtual reality. And what that turned into was me going full time, being the VR campus pastor for Lakeland, building out a launch team like you would for church planting for the sake of being able to have a presence in VR at least 5 days a week. That way people start associating church and VR with Lakeland.
That's so interesting.
Pretty much how I got there.
Man, I never would have thought, like, doing a church planting podcast, the planting of a church or a ministry within virtual reality.